Hey guys, welcome back to the training channel. In this video, we're going to be continuing the 4-part video series of training for the tactical games. Now, just to recap what this video series is, if you didn't watch the first video of the series, this is just the way that I segment my training as I train for the tactical games, because the sport of the tactical games is a multi-discipline sport, as in there's a lot of different things you need to train for in order to be competitive within the sport. Now, there are divisions within the tactical games, full disclosure, that are designed for basically anyone to be able to go to and be able to be competitive in, but in the men's elite division, the women's elite, and then some of the other divisions, if you want to be competitive, you're going to have to train specifically for the sport. So this video series is just how I break up, how I segment my training to try and capture all of the different disciplines in the sport. So the first video in the series, we went over positional shooting and mock tactical game stages. So just to take a step back real quick, all of the training that I do is done on either a daily basis or a weekly basis. So basically everything I do on the range is a weekly basis, and everything that I do on a daily basis is at home in my gym, whether strength and conditioning, mobility, dry fire, and things like that. But out here on the range, I segment my training into 2 different training segments. Like in the first video, if you guys want to go back and watch that video, it was positional shooting and mock tactical game stages. So the positional shooting is going to address the majority of the shooting that you see or experience at a tactical games match. So 50 to 70% of your shooting is going to be in a traditional tactical game style stage, where it's going to assess athletes' ability to have good marksmanship fundamentals while under duress. And then we do that basically just doing some drills to practice building that skill up. And then we did a mock tactical game stage to actually evaluate ourselves, assess ourselves in our ability to be accountable while under duress. Now in this video, we're going to address the other type of shooting that you're going to experience at tactical games matches, and that is going to be more of the practical type shooting. Now in the sport of tactical games, we call it action shooting, and that is just because that's just the general name of the stages that have this type of shooting. We just call them action stages. So that's what we're going to call it today. We're just going to call it action shooting. And it is going to be slightly different comparatively to USPSA or PCSL type shooting. It's going to be a little bit different comparatively what you see most of the content that we produce here on the TREX channels, but it's going to be very, very similar. Now, the reason why we're going to be focusing a whole segment of our training on this type of shooting, even though it's not the majority of our shooting, is because the stages that have this type of shooting are going to be the places where you make up the most amount of points at a tactical games match. So the people who win these stages generally win the matches, because 70 to 80% of the points you get at a tactical games match is based on your shooting. Fitness, generally speaking, for normal stages is going to get you to your shooting. And there's going to be some stages where you get points for both your hits while shooting and for reps that you do. But all of your other points, this is going to be about 80% of your stages, is going to come directly from your shooting. And then the shooting, or the stages that are shooting only, is going to be more of your action type stages, are going to be a big component, because you're going to see a big skill gap between shooters or athletes that can do really, really well in the stages versus people that cannot do so well. So if you're going to want to win matches at tactical games, this is the type of shooting that you're going to be really good at, and you're going to need to segment some training for it. Now in this training day, I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the first video, and that is I'm going to focus on the squeakiest wheel. So basically the topic of practical shooting or action shooting, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of different things that you can practice within that. So what I recommend you guys do is just find the areas that you're most deficient in, and those are the areas you're going to want to work on most when you come out to the range. Obviously, our time on the range is limited. We don't get to come out to the range all the time. Generally, most people get out to the range once a month. If you're lucky, once a week. Like I am very fortunate to be able to do that. And even once a week is not a lot of time. So what we're going to be focusing on here today is going to be my squeakiest wheels, basically. Now, included in action shooting, I do apologize in advance for this long explanation before we get into some demonstration. Included in action shooting is also going to be long range shooting. So like in the positional shooting and mock tactical game stage, I included some pistol shooting that was more bullseye style shooting into the positional day. It's just the way I segment things. So don't get too hung up on definitions or words here. The practical shooting and the positional type shooting days are just different ways that I segment my training. And for the case of this whole video series, this is just an example of how I train for the tactical games. So getting into the shooting of the day, this is just going to be an example training day for my practical / action shooting type stages. And you're going to notice some different targets here. So we're going to be shooting on tactical games targets like we would on traditional tactical game stages. And that is just because these targets have a little bit more refined aiming areas. Obviously, you can use standard USPSA targets and put good visual indicators on them if you want to aim at something smaller, but I just use the tactical game targets because it just gets me used to shooting on these types of targets. You totally don't have to do this. This may not even be good training advice for you, but this is just what I like to do. So I'm going to be focusing primarily on today is going to be target transitions and shooting and moving, and then we'll get into some long range shooting to close out the day. Generally, these range training days are going to encompass about 200 rounds of both pistol and rifle. So if you're just planning on coming out to the range to train these things, just give or take around 200 rounds. This is generally what I plan for. And so first and foremost, we're going to start with target transitions, demonstrate a drill to work on that, and then we'll get into some more shooting after that. All right, so that was just one example of a target transition drill you can do. So basically the way you set up that drill is you start with your gun out, whether it's rifle or pistol, your fingers on the trigger, ready to go, and on buzzer. You're basically reacting to that buzzer as fast as you can. So this was that target, basically the target we're starting on. And I'm not necessarily aiming for the shapes here. Same principle as from the previous video, as I'm just aiming for a corner here. So here, I'm aiming in this area right here, and the rifle obviously aiming there. And then after you get 2 shots off on that target, you're gonna transition over to generally a larger visual reference point. And this is what we got going on here. So here I am actually aiming for the target, and I started off aiming here, and as you can see, I'm pulling some shots down there. So what this drill is really gonna work on is obviously your vision, but adding 2 rounds per target is going to obviously also help with your recoil control. So this is one you can definitely do with rifle and pistol though. Target transitions are one of the bigger things to worry about when it comes down to the action type stages in the tactical games, because people's ability to move and engage targets quickly through various different targets are going to definitely separate themselves from people who don't practice this type of shooting. So continuing on, we're going to work on shooting and moving now. Now, I like to keep the range setup as simple as possible. This just helps with efficiency and time. Obviously, if I have a complex range setup, that's going to take some of my training time away. So we're going to continue to work on the same 2 targets. And basically all we got set up here is a 10-yard box. So the targets are about 10 yards apart. I'm about 10 yards away from the target, and I have 2 sticks set up, one in front of each target, that are also about 10 yards apart. So all I'm going to do is on buzzer draw, shoot 2 rounds on one of the targets, run over and get 2 rounds off into the next target. So I'm still aiming at one of these tactical games targets, so a smaller refined area to aim at. And basically the overall objective here is to get into position and exit position as fast as possible, just like you would if you're training shooting and moving for any other shooting discipline. Now, one thing to note about the shooting and moving with the tactical games is we don't do retreat. So you're not going to experience having to exit a position on the retreat to enter into a position in that manner. So at least I haven't experienced yet. They may throw it in the future, but just the way that the tactical games works with weapon safety and things like that, you will have to do shooting and moving laterally on the advance, but you probably won't experience it on the retreat, so it's nothing that I'm going to focus on during my shooting and moving days. But today we're just working on lateral movements anyways. There will be days where I focus primarily on entering position on the advance, but that's just not today. Again, this is just an example of how I segment my training. There is more to shooting and moving that you need to work on than what I'm going to demonstrate here. All right, so that was shooting and moving. Just again, one example of a shooting and moving drill that you can do to work on that skill. The idea behind this drill was just the lateral movements, entering and exiting position quickly. So basically all you want to do is figure out a way to get your body to exit position quickly and arrive into position quickly. So as soon as basically as I exit, as soon as I break those shots off, I'm leaving the position, and as soon as I enter in the position, I want to break those shots off. That's how you're going to be most efficient with your movement, and that's what I was trying to work on there. Lateral movements are definitely an area that I'm lacking. I generally enter in position a little too hot, a little off balance, and I like to confirm my shots a little bit more than I should when I exit position, so I have a delay sometimes when I exit. So continuing on with the shooting that we're doing today, now we're going to just work on recoil control. Doubles are a great drill for this to, test a lot of things going on there, but what I like to do, what I'm going to do today is just build drills, and I'm going to continue to use the same 2 targets I have set up. So again, we're trying to just keep in the theme of having a simple range set up, so we're still within this 10-yard box with our tactical games target. So I'm going to be focused primarily on the offset dot with my rifle. I have a hard time shooting this guy. I just find canning the gun to be much less good for recoil control of the rifle versus just shooting through one by on the LPVO. I will say this offset dot is here just as a backup, or if I ever encounter a stage where I have to shoot up close quickly and I need to shoot through magnification very quickly where I don't have the time to adjust magnification, that's what the red dot's for. So basically what I'm saying is I hope I never have to use it, but it's there for that reason. So we are going to train with it. And that's what I'm going to work on here, is basically my recoil control with my offset dot specifically. And then we'll do some recoil control with the pistol too. But so we're just going to be here at 10 yards shooting build drills at the tactical games target. All right, so the last thing we're going to do today is some long range shooting. Now I know this isn't practical or action type shooting, but like I said earlier in the video, don't get hung up on the vocabulary too much. Today what we're focusing on in this segment in training is just the shooting only type stages that we see during tactical games events. And one of those stages that you're always going to see in a match is going to be long range shooting. So we're going to focus part of our training today on the long range shooting. Now we're not going to be focusing too much on our ability to get into positions and shoot off of awkward positions well. That was focused on in the previous training video that we've already covered. But what we are going to focus on today is being able to engage multiple targets at multiple varying distances quickly. So the ability to hit a target, know my hold for that target, transition to a target, know my hold, and engage it quickly is basically what we're going to be working on today. Now today I only have a couple pieces of steel set up, so I'm just going to be transitioning in between them. And if I wanted to, I can just change where I'm at, where my location is, so I can change up the distances downrange and respective to me. But what we're going to do is just engage the steel a couple times, make sure I know my holds, and work on it from there. All right, so that was just a quick example of how I practice some long range shooting. So I had a full-size silhouette at about 450 yards, a 2 MOA gong at 300 yards, and then a reduced C-zone at 200 yards. So just some varying different target shapes and sizes at varying distances. And the idea is on a good position, just knowing my hold, being able to get through those targets, engage them a couple times and move on and be able to do that pretty quickly. But like I said, this is just one example. When I'm shooting long range, the target sound range is gonna look pretty different each time. I'm trying to add a lot of variety to it. So hopefully this video helped you guys out a little bit if you're looking to train for the tactical games. Just to recap what this video series is, this is not so much a how to do things, this is just what to train for the tactical game. So I'm not really getting into principles, fundamentals, and skills and types and things like that in these videos. It's just, again, how I segment my training for the tactical games in a 4-part video series. So the 4 videos again, so the first video that we have already published was positional shooting and mock tactical game stages. Today is action shooting or practical type shooting. So the drills we worked on a little bit of vision with the target transition. We worked on a little bit of shooting and moving, just entering, exiting positions laterally. Again, there's a lot more to work on in that skill set specifically, but this is just, again, an example of what we're doing today. And then we worked on a little bit of recoil control with both rifle and pistol, trying to get good bill drill groups at a small target at 10 yards. And then we came over here and finished on the long range shooting with the rifle. Again, not all of this shooting is action or practical type shooting. Case in point, the long range shooting that we did right here. Again, just to reiterate, this day is segmented to focus on the shooting only portions, shooting only stages that you're going to experience in the tactical games. Now, the other two videos that we're going to do in this video series are going to be focusing on the daily things that I do to train for the tactical games. So we're going to have a strength and conditioning video. We're going to walk through just an example day of what that may look like if you're training for the tactical games, and then we're also going to do dry fire and mobility. So we're going to walk through an example of working on stretching, working on some mobility movements, while we also incorporate dry fire into that. Again, with the overarching theme of this video series, tactical games has a lot of disciplines you need to train for. We don't all have a ton of time to train for it, so we're trying to be as efficient as we can with our time when we do train. Hence why we do things like mobility and dry fire in the same session. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. If you guys have any questions or want some more specifics on how we're training for the tactical games, go ahead and shoot us an email at team@trex-arms.com. I'll be happy to help you from there.